Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. So today's video is actually a happy accident because I basically asked on Instagram a couple of weeks ago if anyone had any travel questions for me and got quite a lot of responses that I thought were more appropriate to make into a whole video, because I think sometimes when you get questions on like Instagram stories, they're only 24 hours and that doesn't really give enough time for people to maybe see the answers and for it to be beneficial in the long run. So I thought I would make a video instead and answer some of these because some of them are really interesting, some of them are really insightful, etc., and it just seemed like a good thing to do. So I'm going to jump straight in and not waffle on too much because there's quite a lot of questions and this video has potential to be quite a long one, but we're going to jump in and just start answering. So I think I've picked about 10 questions ish out of the whole lot. Some of them are kind of like repeats of the same kind of thing, so I've just made them all into one. But anyway, let's get straight into it. So the first question is actually a two-parter. So it's how do you pick your next destination and what are some tips for a budget travel? So I'm going to answer those separately. So how I pick my next destination is a tricky one because I wouldn't say that I necessarily pick where I'm going. Some of my trips could be because they're branded trips, so I don't necessarily get the choice on kind of location and stuff. It's just that they invite me along and I say yes or no. Some of the trips I go on could be like if we've actually planned them, but it could be last minute, so it could be because I found cheap flights or just decided I want to go. So the only ones this year that I've actually kind of like decided on was Paris, that I've already been to, Croatia, which was to see a friend, and then Venice, me and Sam added on to another press trip, which is actually in my travel talks video last week, which I'll link, and then Disneyland. They were like the places that we actually chose to go, and then other ones were because we've been offered hotels or we've been offered like entire trips or whatever it might be. So it is kind of a variation of that, but there is also a lot of places that I really want to go that I maybe haven't been yet. So I am dying to go to kind of Bali in Southeast Asia. I really want to go to Australia, New Zealand. I want to go to Southern America and all these kind of places, and I've actually planned to go with one of my sisters to Australia, but she doesn't leave uni for like 3 years, so that's going to be really fun because it means I've got to wait 3 years to go, and I'm going to be like 30 by then, which is probably not the best time to go, but you know, it is what it is. So there is plans and stuff for places, but I wouldn't say I necessarily pick my next destination. I kind of just pick destinations that I want to go to, and then I'll see kind of what fits where, who can come with me, whether I can get a friend who wants to be there, or if I can do it solo, etc. So there is a few things in the pipeline that I'm thinking about and really considering. And then the other part of the question was, how do I budget to travel? So budgeting to travel is quite a tricky one. I think it's the kind of thing that it really depends on a multiple of it really depends on like a number of factors. So I know I saw a tweet going around about like traveling and how if you really wanted to travel you could stop buying McDonald's and Starbucks and stuff, but I know that isn't necessarily the case for everyone, and some people genuinely have to save for years for like one trip and all that kind of thing. But in general, I'm trying to think what I actually do to budget, because obviously it is difficult where a lot of my trips are kind of not me paying for them as such, but to be honest, it involves a lot of browsing Skyscanner, clearing internet cookies, checking for cheap deals, looking up when there's flight sales on. My BA miles, I'm trying really hard to like rack up at the moment so that I can get kind of as many as possible to go on trips and use air miles. Also just browsing things like hotels and stuff, because booking.com is obviously a really great way to get like cheaper deals on hotels and stuff, but sometimes you could actually get a better deal from going on like Airbnb. So we are going to Venice in like a week or two, and Venice actually happened to be cheaper in Airbnbs, and they're actually nicer and a bit bigger. So I think we're potentially looking at doing that because we haven't actually booked our accommodation yet, but it is doable. You can budget. It's just kind of giving up on the little luxuries that you maybe don't need every day. So working out kind of flight sales and stuff is great, but I think for actually saving money and things, you kind of just need to give up the little luxuries. Like I'm the worst for, if I'm going on a trip, I'll buy like a whole new wardrobe for that trip, and it's just kind of realising that I maybe don't need to do that. I can just wear things I've already got, save the couple of £100 that I'd buy on clothes, and then put that towards something else. But yeah, it is a challenge, but there's lots of information online and there's a lot of people who talk about budgeting for travel really well. So one person in particular I know that does really good like budget travel tips and talks about like how to do things really, really cheap is Charlotte Hull. I'll leave her link down below. And I'll see if she's got any specific videos and stuff, but I know on Instagram she talks quite a lot about how she did like Southeast Asia really cheap. She's just been to Venice for like £8 flights, and all these crazy things, so she's a really good one to look at for budget travel and stuff like that. Okay, next question is, how do you make money by traveling full time? This is quite a tricky one because I wouldn't necessarily say that my money comes from traveling. So I obviously am a full-time blogger, Instagrammer, YouTuber, influencer, whatever you want to call it. This is my full-time job. I work from home, I'm self-employed, etc. But I wouldn't necessarily say that traveling is where my money comes from. So if I go on like press trips and stuff, I'm not necessarily paid to be there. They'll kind of pay for the flight and the hotel, or the flight, the hotel and the food, or some kind of variation of giving the trip. But it's not necessarily a paid trip, so it's kind of me being able to experience another part of the world without having to necessarily pay as much for it. So a lot of the trips I go on, I still have to pay for like my flight transfers, I still have to pay for like food and drink while I'm out there, any activities that I want to do when I'm there. It really depends on the trip, but it's very, very rare that they are paid opportunities. And I know there is a lot of kind of travel bloggers and stuff who do get paid for a lot of their opportunities, like for example Do You Travel in Gypsy Lust, or there's various other ones online that I know that get paid to be in different countries. But I am not fortunate enough to be one of those, as much as I would love to, and as much as I would absolutely like kill to have some of these collaborations. But to be honest, I think the main way that I kind of make money traveling is affiliates and my like AdSense for videos. So if you don't know, YouTubers get a percentage of like almost commission for the ads on the videos. So if, for example, like I don't even know ballpark figures because I don't really know how it all works, but basically when you put a video up and it gets a certain number of views and subscribers and likes and etc., the ads that are on the video, if you click on them or if you watch them to the end and stuff, it basically generates a small income for the YouTuber. And when I say small, I'm meaning like some months I could literally get £100, some months it could be like £50. It really depends. But then other months you could get like £500 to £1,000. And a lot of YouTubers kind of rely on that side of it. So there's a few travel bloggers that I know and watch who just make money off those ads on the videos, and they daily vlog or they do quite regular uploads because that's obviously how they generate more of an income. But alongside that, the affiliate stuff, so you might notice if you ever go into my description box, I put links to everything I'm talking about. So whether that's my outfits, my makeup, my suitcase, my packing cubes, my drone, my camera, my tripod, my literally everything, like it is always linked down in my description. So what happens is basically if you click on one of these links and you buy something, I get like a really tiny percentage of commission. And by tiny, I'm meaning like you could spend £100 and I might get like £3.50, or I could get £10. So it's not a lot of money, but obviously in the long run that adds up. And if say like 5 of you bought my drone for £1,000, I could get maybe like £300 for that, or whatever it might be. So it is a good little way to make money, and it doesn't mean that you guys pay more for things. It's just that that's kind of the website being like, here's a little thank you for giving us some business, and then they pay you like a teeny tiny little bit of that. But that's kind of how I majority make money traveling. It's more for like my clothes and stuff. However, in general, my income comes from like brands sponsoring me to do other things. So it could be like a lifestyle brand or a fashion brand or things like that. But to be honest, most of the time it is actually at home. It's just that if it is while I'm away, say for example I get like a sunglass collaboration, I know I've got a trip in a week, I will just take the sunglasses and shoot it there because obviously it's a better location for the pictures. But yeah, that's kind of how I make money, but I wouldn't necessarily say I make money full-time traveling, as much as I would love to. Like I would literally love to be constantly traveling and making money from it, but it's just not possible for me at the moment. Next question, how do you travel and edit without missing out on things? That's a really good question, and I think if I was traveling full-time it'd be a lot more challenging, because when I did my 3 months in South Africa and I was weekly vlogging, it was quite a challenge to keep up with like vlogging and blogging and all that kind of thing. So in the evenings I'd literally have to sit on my laptop, or if we were driving along and doing like a big chunk of road trip, I'd have to sit and edit while I was doing that chunk, and that kind of thing. But to be honest, I have just hired a video editor who is amazing, she's great, and that's kind of helped a lot. But the only thing that I've not really experienced yet, because we've only been working together for a few weeks, is how it's going to work if I'm kind of away longer term, because obviously like when you're traveling it is difficult to get Wi-Fi and stuff. So like before I had an editor, I would literally be every flight editing on the plane, whether that's editing a video or a blog post or Instagram or whatever it might be. I was always editing on the plane and filming constantly while I'm somewhere, and then in the evenings I'd sit on my laptop. And if me and Sam travel together, which we do quite a lot, one of the main things that we tend to do is kind of every single day we'll make like a coffee stop, and we'll basically sit in a coffee shop, we'll get the camera out, we'll take the memory card out, we'll put all the pictures and stuff onto our phones, and we'll basically just sit there and like kind of edit while we're sat having coffee. To be honest, when you're on holiday with someone and you're spending a week literally glued to their side, I don't think it's that antisocial to sit on your phone for like 15-20 minutes while you're having coffee, because you've literally spent every single second in each other's company. So it kind of is, it's acceptable to sit down for like 2 minutes and just, you know, take some time to edit and things. But it is challenging. I absolutely take my hat off to people who daily vlog and travel, because there's quite a few people I know that do it, and it's a challenge. Like, it is a challenge, but it's one of those things where you've kind of got to remember that no matter where you are in the world, you're still kind of working. So travel to me and like holidays aren't really like holidays. So even when I was in Croatia, I was still sat doing emails throughout the day on my phone, and I was still sat editing on my phone, and I was still kind of trying to keep up with different bits and pieces that I needed to get done, because it's still work, if that makes any sense. You just have to make the time, and you have to use the time when you could potentially be sleeping or whatever. And like I said, I try and make the majority of my day focused around actually being in the moment and traveling. Obviously sometimes camera is in hand, but the bits that I need to do, like editing and stuff, I do kind of on the side, and when I'm maybe sat in bed in the evening, or first thing in the morning, or over breakfast, or when I stop for coffee and that kind of thing, so that I'm still kind of seeing the world but carrying on as I go. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Someone asked countries I've travelled to, so I'm not going to answer this one because I feel like that could be a really, really long list. What I will do is I will leave a link in the description box to the playlist with all of my travel vlogs in, so you can see all the places that I have videoed in. This isn't necessarily all the places that I've been to, but that's all the kind of documented stuff. Next question, what clothes to pack for London and Paris? This is very, very dependent on the time of year that you're coming to London or to going to Paris, and very dependent on kind of what you're doing. I think definitely the main thing to pack is like comfortable shoes, because both cities are very much like walking focused. So Paris and London, as much as there is like metros and underground, you do still do quite a lot of walking, so definitely comfortable shoes. If it's in winter, I'd say definitely pack a coat, a couple of jumpers, maybe a scarf, umbrella just in case, because you never know. And if it's summer, then maybe just pack like a lightweight jacket, like a denim jacket or something, and maybe one jumper just for the evening when it gets a bit chilly. But it really depends honestly on what time of year you are coming. The one thing I will say that I do if I'm going to somewhere that I've maybe never been before is I check the weather app on my phone for like a general overview of the time that I'm going. So say if I was going in June, I would look for like a general overview of what the weather's normally like in June, and then just kind of pack for that, and then keep the weather app on my phone so that I can see, like, as it gets closer and closer, I can see kind of what the temperature is going to be. And also Pinterest is a really great one. So if you type in on Pinterest like packing for London or packing for wherever, even on YouTube to be fair, because like I do packing videos and I know other people do as well, but on Pinterest there's like PDF things that people make where it'll be like packing for London in winter, and they'll literally show you what to put in your case, and then you can obviously alter that as you feel necessary, but they're really, really helpful, so definitely worth having a look into. Okay, next question, do you know how to do New York on a budget? I wish I knew how to do New York on a budget. I've only been once, and I luckily went with Sam, who has been before, and Danielle, who used to live out there, and it was a challenge. Like, it is definitely one of the most expensive places I've ever been to, but I know that is partly because Sam and I have a bit of a coffee addiction, and we also went on a couple of nights out and stuff, so we spent a lot on like alcohol and food, which we could have definitely not done. But flight wise, we actually didn't really plan a specific time that we wanted to go. We kind of overviewed a whole month, and then we picked like the cheapest days in that month, and we went over Halloween, so was a tiny bit more expensive. And our hotel, like, I can't for the life of me remember the exact price what we paid for things, but I think our flights were about 300-ish each, and then our hotel I think was about 400 or 500, I'm not really sure, I can't remember. But it is tricky to do New York on a budget. I think budget New York is kind of like average to spenny somewhere else, so definitely a hard one. I'm gonna find out if there's anything online, and I think this is like something you should definitely research into, because I don't personally know, but I know there is a lot of hacks. So a lot of people I see online will do like hacks of New York, so instead of going up to the top of the rock and paying like $20 or whatever it is, there's other ways that you can get up to a different viewpoint that might be free. Or for example, going up the Empire State, you maybe could do like a different view kind of thing. There is ways to do it, it's just kind of how you choose to do it. And I also think a lot of people get Uber and stuff in New York, where you could just get the metro, which is way, way, way cheaper, and actually not that confusing. It wasn't too bad, it's just a bit gross. Next question, have you been to Canada? If so, what are your favourite places to visit? I have not been to Canada, but Canada is very, very, very high on my list. So I actually watched a documentary on Netflix, which was a couple that kind of renovated, I think it was a school bus, but it might have been a camper van. And they basically travelled around Canada and America, and it looked insane. Like, it was so beautiful, and that made me really, really want to go, because they just made it look insane, and all the lakes and stuff are amazing. And I think Canada's one of those countries where there's such a vast range of landscapes. So you could have, for example, like these beautiful stunning lakes, then you've got this massive green field that's gorgeous, you've got a really, really vast city, but then you've also got this like basically winter wonderland where it's really snowy, and all of those things are quite close together, and it just looks insane. Like, I really, really want to do it, so it's definitely high on my list. But if you have recommendations, please let me know. How do you budget for your travels? This is quite a tricky one. So if it's a trip that I am personally going on, I will kind of try and put aside as much as I can for that trip. So like I said a minute ago, if, for example, I decide I need a whole new wardrobe, I'll kind of rationalise with myself and say I don't really need to buy that whole new wardrobe. I can save that money for experiences while I'm out there, etc. And I try quite hard when I'm away to not have 3 full meals a day in restaurants. So what I'll tend to do is, like, if the hotel includes breakfast, I'll maybe have a good breakfast, not have lunch, and then have like a dinner later on in the evening. Or if there's like an option to have breakfast included that's a bit more expensive, I'm not really a big eater, so I will tend to just kind of have a coffee either in the hotel or just grab one while I'm out, and maybe get like a small croissant or something, and then have like a really light lunch or a big lunch, and then not have a dinner or have a small dinner. Like, I try and kind of make it so that I spend as little as possible on food, so that my actual trip is more like, is a lot cheaper. But regarding budgets before I go, I think it's just a case of prioritizing. And I know that sounds really stupid, and I know that, like I said, it's not necessarily an option for everyone, but oh, I'm dropping my phone. But I think it's definitely important to kind of, if you know that you've got a trip coming up, just to kind of budget for that, and maybe look at like a general idea of how much flights are going to cost, how much hotels are going to cost, how much spending money you're going to want. So say, for example, you know you need like £800, then kind of work out how easy that is to do, and then try and budget as much as you can for that. And one thing I tend to do quite often actually is, say for example, I've got quite a lot of clothes I want to sell on eBay or Depop, I will maybe pop all of those up and then use that money towards the travel, so that I've got kind of a bit of extra cash going in. Or I could use that money towards like the clothes that I maybe need to buy. So if I don't have any denim shorts that fit, then I could maybe buy a new pair of denim shorts, etc. Your favourite holiday destinations in Europe, because I need some ideas. This really depends, because I've got quite a lot of like different things in Europe that I really enjoy. And there's a few places I kind of go back to quite often. So Paris I go to quite a lot. Barcelona I really, really liked. I thought it was a beautiful city. I really enjoyed the kind of Gothic quarter and stuff, but I wish I'd spent a bit more time there, because I was actually there for a wedding. Where else? I'm sure I'm going to love Amalfi and Venice. That'll probably be on the list afterwards. But Croatia is amazing. Definitely recommend sailing it though, and not doing it by land, because I know that sailing it is a lot more beautiful, and you see a completely different side of all the islands, because obviously you're in the water and you're seeing the landscape. And I just personally love sailing, so definitely one to look into. Greece is amazing. There's a lot of islands that not many people know about that are really great. So Spetses is a personal favourite of mine, and Naxos, which is also really cheap. Kind of looks a bit like Mykonos. It's not too far away actually. I think it's literally like, because I remember you could get a ferry that was like 30-40 minutes. But Naxos is just outside of Mykonos, a lot cheaper, and it looks exactly the same. So if you're thinking of going to like a Mykonos kind of vibe, that's worth going to. Bilbao was actually surprisingly good. It's a bit more of a city break, and it's a lot more like rural Spain, because not many of the locals really spoke English, which me and Sam found quite hilarious, because we just don't know Spanish, and they speak like a Basque Spanish that's slightly different. Really good tapas, not too expensive, and there's beaches and stuff close by if you want them. Where else is there that I really enjoy? Off the top of my head I can't really think, but there is a lot of places that I really enjoy, and if you go back, like I said, on my travel vlogs, which I'll leave linked down below, you can kind of get a gist of what I've done in different places, or places that I've been to that I really liked. So yeah, I think that's probably my favourite thus far. There is a lot more that I really want to go to though, so definitely watch this space. The best place you've been to? I actually think the best place I've been to is Cape Town, and I really wanted to move there. Like, I think it's such a beautiful place. The only thing that stops me is that it's a bit corrupt in terms of like the government and stuff to live out there. Like, obviously going on holiday is fine as a tourist, but to live out there it'd be quite difficult. But it's honestly one of my favourite places in the world, and not only is like the food great and the nightlife great, but you've got a beach with penguins, you've got Table Mountain and Lion's Head that you can climb up with the most insane, gorgeous views ever. You've got Blowberg Beach, which is my favourite sunset in the entire world. There's like wine trams you can do. It's got some of the best wine in the world. You can go to like wine farms and stuff. There's also things like helicopter rides you can do there. There's like literally so much you can do, like shark diving and everything. Like, it is one of those places where you could go for like 3 months, which obviously I did go for like a month and a half, and there's just so much to do that you'd never ever get bored. It's definitely somewhere I'd go back to, and definitely somewhere that I really enjoyed. So that's probably the best place I've ever been to, I think, and one that has quite a lot of memories. And yeah, I just really liked it, and I'd definitely go back there. Next question. I'm going to Paris in June. Is there anything you could warn or advise about as a tourist? The biggest thing I would say from experience, like nothing has ever personally been taken from me, thank God, but the biggest thing I will say is like pickpockets are very like strong in Paris. On like 2 separate occasions I've witnessed like quite like scary things, I guess you could say. So the first time when I was there last May with my friend Hayley and my ex-boyfriend, they were taking pictures literally right in front of me at the Trocadero, which is one of the worst places. Like, I would never go back there apart from like really early in the morning to take a picture and literally guard my stuff with my life. But I was stood with the camera bags and I had them on a ledge, and I was literally like holding them like this, and I had like the bag like hooked on my arm and stuff, so I was literally like holding them. And the one thing I noticed is there's a lot of men that kind of hover around in like either couples or like singly, and they've all got little Bluetooth headphone things in, or like headphones, and they're on their phones, and you can see them kind of like looking around really sheepish and like texting. And what they do, I have realised, because I've been there a million times and never really thought anything of it, but as I watch them, what they do is one will clock you, for example. So this happened to me, so that one of them clocked me, texted, and within seconds there was literally like 3 or 4 of them around me, like quite close by. So there was 2 stood like just in front of me, like literally like here, and they were kind of like looking at my stuff and like clocking what I'd got and trying to make it look like they were kind of admiring the view. And then there was another one over my other shoulder that was kind of working out when he could make a move, kind of. It was very, very weird. But basically, like, they were all kind of there. And as soon as I kind of like went like this and shouted to my 2 friends to come back over, they kind of disappeared. But we literally watched them for about 20 minutes, and it was so ridiculous. Like, they would literally pick a girl or a guy and they'd be like, right, that one. And they'd see a phone in a back pocket, or they'd notice the bag was open, or that the bag was like over their shoulder, like without a zip or something, and you'd literally watch them trying to get stuff off these people. And I didn't actually see anything stolen that I know of. Like, obviously they could have done it and I didn't realise, but that was quite scary to me, because I think it's quite a, like, that part of Paris, especially like around that area, is so heavily touristic, and yeah, I can imagine a lot gets stolen there every day. Another place I would say be very wary is kind of the other side of the Eiffel Tower, which is the road that everyone uses, and like around the actual base of the tower. There's a lot of guys trying to sell like Eiffel Tower key rings and flashing Eiffel Towers and that kind of thing. And Chloe and I were shooting there in February this year, and while we were taking pictures, I was videoing Chloe, and I managed to actually turn and get a clip. It's in her vlog. But basically this guy was like hovering, and he kept walking really slowly past me and Chloe's stuff, because obviously we were taking pictures, so I was taking pictures of her and our stuff was kind of next to me on the floor, but he obviously realised that we weren't holding it. So he walked past and then walked back up, and I kind of like stood over the top of our stuff to make sure he couldn't get it when we were there. But then about 2 minutes later he comes flying around the corner, like running. So I quickly like grabbed the stuff, like what the fuck is going on, and basically he ran, and then these police, like, so he, like, the start of the road is here, he ran down the road, and then these police like came from either side and just like floored him. And there was an American like little school group next to us, and we overheard the American teacher saying that he'd heard that the guy had stolen like 10 passports or something, and he'd got like phones and whatever. So that's quite scary. But yeah, definitely one thing I would say is be wary of pickpockets. Like, just really watch your stuff and really be careful of kind of making sure that everything is on you. So the one thing I always do is I take like crossbody bags, even in London, that zip up, and I'll keep them on the front of me zipped up, and I'll make sure that everything is in there, because if it's at the front of my body and it's zipped, I know that I'll see if someone tries to grab anything, rather than like having it over my shoulder where they can like pick in. But yeah, I think that's the main thing to be wary of, to be honest. Next question. The place, oh, this is actually the last one. The place that surprised you most that you've visited. I want to say probably Croatia. No, I think actually Marrakesh, because I knew I'd like Marrakesh, and I knew that it would be like a sensory overload and the colours and stuff were stunning, but I wasn't quite prepared for how much I'd like Marrakesh and how beautiful it was. Like, it is a stunning place. Like, it is amazing. Like, it's so beautiful. There's so much to see. All of the souks and like the little streets and stuff are just like, they're like every movie you've ever seen. Like, they literally, I was walking through like, oh my god, this is like Aladdin, this is like Sex and the City, like this is just like, there was just so much going on, and everything was just exactly as I'd imagined, if not more. And in the nighttime, everything just comes alive and it's so bright and vibrant, and the food is amazing, and it just honestly was one of my favourite places I've been to. And I definitely want to go back and do like the desert as well, because we stayed in like a little retreat that was outside of the city, and I really want to go back and stay in a riad and do like the camel trips through the desert and have dinner in the desert and all that kind of stuff, because it just looked so amazing on everyone else's like stories and pictures and stuff. So definitely that is probably the place that surprised me the most, because I didn't think I'd love it as much as I did. I think it kind of had the potential to go either way, actually. Like, I knew going I'd either really like it or really hate it, and I'm kind of glad that I loved it. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.